Hello, football faithful, and welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brenden and Eric. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you do listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. My co-host, Mr. Eric Warrensy, is with us, but today we have a very special guest. We are talking with the afternoon host on ESPN 1530. Can also be heard on 700 WLW and ESPN Radio. Mo Egger is with us. Mo, how we doing?
I'm good, guys. What's going on?
We're doing well. We're getting into the thick of things here. It's Tuesday. We're about 5 days away from the Super Bowl. I'm sure you are very excited. But before we get into it, we got to ask you, what is Skyline chili? Because we are both chili fans, and we're very curious.
Look at this. Here, I'll put the Skyline chili hat on. Right?
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Skyline chili is the best. It's the absolute best. And if you come to Cincinnati, you have to have it.
Does Cincinnati have a known food for the city? Like Philly's got cheesesteaks, New York's got pizza. Cincinnati have something like that?
It's chili. It's Cincinnati chili. Cincinnati chili is a little bit different. It's not maybe quite as thick as chilies from other parts of the country. We take pride in chili, and we take pride in beer.
Gotcha. Well, we like to take pride.
I like it. We'll have to give it a try.
Yeah, it looks like Cincinnati's right up our alley. We might have to head over there.
Come on out.
All right, Mo. Let's start with kind of a generic question here. Again, 5 days away from the Super Bowl. Is there a storyline that you've got your eye on heading into this game?
I think from a storyline perspective, the most interesting one involves Andrew Whitworth. Who's checked every box in his career. For my money, is a Hall of Fame left tackle. It's interesting, and I was talking about this with one of the local writers here. There's probably a Hall of Fame voter who is going to look at Andrew Whitworth through one of two lenses. Was he part of a championship team, or was he not a part of a championship team? This is, by his own admission, likely to be his last game. He's 40 years old. He's playing against his former team. I think it's incredibly myopic to look at any player through that lens, much less an offensive lineman. But theoretically, there could be a voter whose Hall of Fame vote for Andrew Whitworth hinges on whether or not he beats his former team in his last game. That is fascinating. And by the way, it's a great one-on-one matchup because you're going to get Trey Hendrickson, who's easily Cincinnati's best pass rusher, against Andrew Whitworth, who's still playing at a really high level at this age. When they let him get away in free agency at the end of the 2016 season, a lot of fans sort of use that as the moment that this franchise pivoted from one that was really, really good, really well run, put together really good teams for the first half of the last decade, into this period of darkness that didn't end until Joe Burrow showed up in Cincinnati. I've always given the Bengals a little bit of a break for letting Andrew Whitworth go away because, 35 years old, are you really betting on him to continue to play at a high level at that position as he hits his late 30s? As it turned out, the Bengals bet against that. Andrew Whitworth proved them wrong. He is a beloved player here. He had a great run in Cincinnati, and obviously, what he's done in Los Angeles speaks for itself. But that, to me, is the most interesting storyline. Andrew Whitworth looking to check that last box in his career against his former team in what is likely to be his last game.
Right on. So from an outsider's view, I have a tough time getting a read on Zac Taylor. What was yours and Cincinnati's view of Zac prior to the season, and what is it now?
Prior to the season, a big old I don't know, because I think you had to give him a little bit of a pass for his first two seasons. In year one, 2019, first of all, he got the job late. He got it. He was on that Rams staff that was in the Super Bowl. So he gets the gig late. They assemble a coaching staff late. The coaches were just meeting each other for the first time at the scouting combine. And I mean, literally, if a variable could work against a first-time head coach that first season, it did. From the fact that he inherited a bad team, and honestly, the front office did nothing to make that team any better. Cincinnati's defense in 2018 was historically bad. They didn't fix it. So he walks into a situation, the defense is going to be terrible. Andy Dalton is still their quarterback, and for all of his attributes, we all know Andy's limited. They draft Jonah Williams in the first round. He gets injured during OTAs, doesn't even get to training camp, never plays a snap. A.J. Green gets hurt on the first day of training camp, never plays a snap. So from the get-go, that season was doomed. They went 2-14, and there were still some holdovers from the previous regime that were never going to be on board with Zac Taylor. But you kind of viewed what was happening as less a symptom of having an ill-prepared or a bad coach and just a byproduct of what he inherited and some of the bad luck that worked against him. So 2020, they draft Joe Burrow, but they got a rookie quarterback ready for week 1 without preseason, with training camp being somewhat truncated, with Joe going through the offseason, learning the offense from his parents' couch in Athens, Ohio. The roster was still not very good, and Burrow got hurt in week 10. So, right when you kind of felt like, all right, let's see how he does in the second half of the season, he gets hurt and he doesn't play. So I did think it spoke well about Zac Taylor, the way the Bengals played at the end of last year. You might remember they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football with Ryan Finley playing quarterback. He completed 7 passes that night. Cincinnati still won. Brandon Allen played the following week, and the Houston Texans were terrible, but they came back and they won that week. And so I watched that team through his first 2 seasons and thought, well, they do play hard for him. I've never felt like their effort was compromised. Never really seemed to me like he was losing the locker room. But the reality is we were going to judge him this season by, does he win football games? And he's won football games. So I don't think you could say he's done a bad job whatsoever. I do think if you asked a lot of fans, what they would tell you is they do wonder if the offense could function more effectively if he gave up play calling duties. He has called the plays since he got here. And the reality is, for all of their weaponry, for as good as Joe Burrow is, sometimes this offense spins its tires and they're sort of stuck in the mud. And there's a lot of reasons for that, I guess. The offensive line is not very good. Coming into the season, you still had a pretty inexperienced quarterback. But I do think there are legitimate gripes about how conservative the Bengals can be at times offensively. And so that sort of falls on the play caller. But by and large, from a leadership standpoint, from the standpoint of sort of creating the team in his own image, getting the guys to play, I think Zac's done a really, really good job. And the reality is this: Marvin Lewis was here for 16 years and he never won a playoff game. Zac Taylor's won 3 and he might win 4. He's going to be the coach for the rest of my life. So if you don't like Zac Taylor, I got news for you. Settle in and get used to it because he's going to be here for a while.
Hey, I'm an Eagles fan. I watched Doug Peterson win a Super Bowl and be out of there in a couple years. So I maybe hold your breath on that take. But I do. Zac Taylor's a funny kind of case study. Like me and Eric, we were shredding. Be honest, we were shredding him on our podcast, right, Eric, at the beginning of the year. But like August, like July time, we weren't big fans of him. And I didn't really kind of take in the injury factor. I should have not held that against him. Joe Burrow went out, right? Like you said, AJ Green his first year. And the conservative offense was an issue to me. Like last year, their offense looked so stale. It was quick 3-yard, 4-yard passes the entire game. And it just, you didn't see kind of that development that you saw this year from Joe Burrow. So I think if there's like a comeback coach of the year, I think Zac Taylor wins that award this year. He's been spectacular getting this team ready every week. Like you said, they play hard for him. And now in the Super Bowl, and I want to kind of transition to the front office of this team, because I find this front office kind of set up very interesting. They don't have an actual GM. It looks like it's run by Duke Tobin, who's a director of player personnel there. Mm-hmm. Like he made some very big time, like, I'm putting this on my back of my career signings this offseason with Trey Hendrickson, giving him a ton of money, opening up to Chidobe Awuzie, guys like that, like Von Bell. Like he signed a ton of defensive free agents. What do you make of the job that he's done? Because clearly it's working.
Yeah, he's done a really good job. And, when the Bengals drafted Joe Burrow, what a lot of people said was, well, the franchise is going to fail him. And so to me, that fell on the lap of Duke Tobin, who doesn't have the title of general manager, but I mean, he has the job. He just doesn't have the title. He is the de facto general manager, as we say. But yeah, I mean, to me, you kind of start in the draft where this team finally started drafting well. Sam Hubbard, Joe Mixon, Jesse Bates, Joe Burrow is pretty obvious. T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt. I mean, if you've watched this team in the postseason, think of all the guys that have stepped up and made huge plays for this team. Most of them were draft choices. And so, the Jamar Chase decision, which was pretty polarizing. They took a lot of heat for not taking Penei Sewell. They took Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase should be at least the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. So that has worked. So you start there. But, this team really finally, and it was well overdue, they finally embraced modern ways of building a roster, which means they finally jumped into free agency, and they didn't, go get the biggest names, and they did overpay. They overpaid DJ Reader. who's paid off big time this year. They overpaid Trey Waynes, who unfortunately has been hurt a lot, a cornerback they've had for 2 seasons. But if you're the Bengals, you have to overpay, especially if you want to make major improvements on defense. You don't have a choice. And the Bengals historically don't overpay anybody. So for them to do that was a little out of character for this team. But then, you mentioned the Trey Hendrickson thing. They had Carl Lawson last year. There were a lot of us who wondered, God, is that really an upgrade from Carl Lawson? Unfortunately, Carl couldn't play this year because he got hurt for the Jets in training camp. But Trey Hendrickson has been a massive upgrade from what Carl Lawson was. So that's a big free agent acquisition. You mentioned some of the guys in the secondary, Chidobe Awuzie, Von Bell has paid off big, had the big pick against the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's also been some of the more under-the-radar acquisitions. This team, if you watch the Kansas City game, which I'm sure you did, the game changed on a pick by B.J. Hill. B.J. Hill started training camp with the New York Giants, and the Bengals acquired him for a center, a former first-round pick, who they were probably going to cut, Billy Price. They flipped Billy Price, who couldn't play, for B.J. Hill, and in game 1 of his Bengals career, 2 sacks, and then in the AFC Championship game makes one of the biggest plays in the history of the franchise. So it's been a little bit of everything. It's been some of the big picture signings. Riley Reef worked out at right tackle, unfortunately, before he got hurt. It's drafting pretty well, but they've also, sort of filled holes with guys that have done a really, really nice job. And by the way, say what you want about Zac Taylor, the striking image the day that they announced him as the new coach was that of Mike Brown, the owner, and Zac Taylor, the coach, and Duke Tobin sitting there at the table as well. That sort of thing had never happened. And the message was very clear. This is Duke Tobin's hire. So if you think Zac Taylor's doing a good job, then I think you have to credit the guy who hired him, and that's obviously Duke.
Right. And like you mentioned, the draft history, it's very, very successful. I want you to be honest. On draft night, were you on Team Chase or Team Sewell?
I was on Team Chase, and to me, it was less about the individual players. Had they taken the best offensive lineman in the draft, you couldn't have blamed them, right? I mean, we've seen this offensive line this year; it's not good. So you can never blame a team that doesn't have a good offensive line for addressing its offensive line, especially one that saw its quarterback get carted off with a significant knee injury. But this was less about player versus player, and it was more about their philosophy. And their philosophy is one that I tend to agree with, which is let's be elite at one particular position group. And, at wide receiver, pretty good trio of dudes they got in Boyd, Higgins, and now Jamar Chase. So you start there. Number 2, you're looking for a draft pick who can hit the ground running. Jamar Chase didn't play last year, but you didn't have to worry about building chemistry with your quarterback. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase played together at LSU in that national championship year of 2019. So if you're going to take a wide receiver, it helps to have somebody the quarterback is thrown to. But I think the overarching theme of the selection was this. They felt like they could do a good enough job keeping Joe Burrow upright by having guys who get open, and by taking advantage of his ability to get rid of the football quickly and be decisive, that essentially a second and a half after the snap, somebody was going to be open between Higgins, Boyd, Uzama, Jamar Chase. Somebody was going to be open, and that, as a result, is going to help keep Joe upright. Now, frankly, that's worked to a degree. He was still sacked more than any quarterback in the NFL. That's a byproduct of an offensive line that's not great. That's also a byproduct of a quarterback that has held onto the ball a little bit too long at times, and I think at times understandably so, because he's not turning it over if he takes a sack. But that was their thinking. Let's be explosive. Let's be elite at something, and our offense can function. We're still going to make incremental upgrades on the offensive line. They took an offensive lineman in the second round. They signed Riley Reef from free agency. They felt like, Jonah Williams was coming into his own. If he finally plays a full season, that's going to be a bonus. So it's not like they totally ignored the offensive line. The criticism of the team was, well, the Bengals just ignored the offensive line. And I'm going, wait a minute. They took an offensive lineman in the first and second round in 2015, an offensive lineman in the first round in 2018. They traded for a first-round pick for an offensive lineman that year as well, and they took an offensive lineman with the first-round pick in 2019. That's not a team that's ignoring the offensive line. It's a team that's gotten it wrong with a lot of the picks on the offensive line. So maybe there's a different approach. Maybe it's later in the draft. Maybe it's in free agency. They did both, and they ultimately got the wide receiver who I think makes them elite at one position group, and so far it's worked.
Yeah, I think the Jonah Williams thing is interesting. He kind of gets forgot about, and you get your quarterback, you get Jonah Williams, and then Jamar Chase. Like they kind of did it 3 years in a row: tackle, quarterback, receiver. And I think that's a blueprint that teams are going to start following, right? Like get your quarterback, get your tackle, get your receiver, and kind of go with that route. And that's a blueprint I'm sure that teams are going to kind of copy off the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, Mo, I want to ask you about the matchup in this game. Hearing a lot of whispers, a lot of people talking on talk radio, FS1. I heard on First Things First, Nick Wright was ripping this matchup for the Bengals. Kind of curious your opinion on this, because on paper, the defensive line of the Rams going up against the offensive line of the Bengals is kind of a mismatch. But what do you make of this? What do you make of this overall matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I think the game is going to come down to what you just alluded to. Aaron Donald is the best player in football as far as I'm concerned. And he's going to hit Joe Burrow and he's going to sack Joe Burrow. And their defensive line is going to put pressure. You saw the Tennessee game, right? They gave up 9 sacks. And the blueprint was send pressure up the middle. You don't need to blitz. Send 4, drop 7, drop 8 if you have to. You can get to Cincinnati's quarterback. So the question to me isn't, is Joe going to get sacked? He will. It's not, will he get hit? He will. The question is, number 1, does he get hurt? Number 2, do the sacks stay sacks, or do they become sack fumbles, or do they become pressures that result in turnovers? This team, when they don't turn it over, is virtually unbeatable. They're 12-1 this season when they don't lose the turnover battle, including 3-0 here in the postseason. If you look at their last 6 wins, they've each come in sort of different ways, right? They've had the game that they just, threw for 525, that game against Baltimore. They had the game against Kansas City in the regular season where they were down 14 points on 3 different occasions. They had the game against Denver on the road where they basically chose to play field position football against an offense that's not very good. There was the comeback against Kansas City last week. There's the way they played against Tennessee and Las Vegas, which was, sort of more field position, don't take too many shots. But the common denominator has been they haven't turned it over. They did have a pick against Kansas City, and they had sort of a fluky pick against Tennessee, but they've won the turnover battle. It's very simple for me. If the Bengals turn it over 1 time or less, they win. If they turn it over more than once, they're probably not going to win. So what do those pressures on Joe Burrow turn into? We saw it against Tennessee. There were times where you could say, God, he held onto the football too long, but at least it wasn't a pick, and at least he protected it. And, maybe the sack took him out of field goal range, or maybe it threw their offensive series off schedule, but they kept possession. I think that is enormous in this game. You're not going to block Trey Hopkins or whatever rotating guard they have is not going to spend 4 quarters just, corralling Aaron Donald. And same for what they have on the edge with Von Miller. They're going to get to Joe Burrow. We're expecting it. Their offense, frankly, if you've watched their 3 games in the postseason, they've sort of figured out a way to work around the offensive line. They haven't been that explosive. Evan McPherson has kicked 12 field goals. I don't know if kicking 4 field goals is going to work against the LA Rams.
In that Chiefs game, they were very conservative, no? Like the way their game plan was, yeah.
Yeah, very early. And they, even they were conservative when they fell behind. But again, they've been virtually unbeatable when they don't turn it over. And so I think the first thing you're going to look at is, did the Cincinnati Bengals win the turnover battle? And as cliche as that sounds, if the answer is yes, I think they're going to win. And if the answer is no, and Joe Burrow midway through the season had a ton of picks. There was a time, weeks 9 and 10 when he was leading the league in picks thrown. So it's not like he's immune to making mistakes. He just hasn't made them here in the second half of the season. If that continues, I love their chances on Sunday.
So I think you kind of just said it, but I got to just ask quickly. Are you predicting a W here? Are the Bengals taking it home?
I think the Bengals are going to win the game. I think it's going to be really close. I don't think the Bengals right now have the capability of blowing out a good opponent. And look, they've had 2 games come down to a kick, one at the end of regulation, one in overtime, and they needed a pick in the last minute of the game against Las Vegas to win in the first round. So chances are this is coming down to the fourth quarter. But if I have Joe Burrow on my team and I'm within a score, I feel pretty good. And so, again, if they continue to take care of the ball, and that's the entire team too, because, we saw them lose to San Francisco, 2 special teams turnovers. We saw them lose to the Chargers at home. Jamar Chase with a drop that turned into a pick. Joe Mixon with an unforced drop on when they were driving for a go-ahead score. So it's not just on Joe, but if this team plays as cleanly offensively as they have, even if they're not explosive, I like them just enough. And I think Matthew Stafford's going to give it away at least once, maybe twice. And so I do think the Bengals are going to win their first Super Bowl.
Mo, when was the last time a Cincinnati sports team won a title?
Well, God, the Cincinnati Cyclones won the ECHL title in 2010. No, you have the Reds, and the 1990 Reds won the World Series. So yeah, this will be our first.
Mo, I'm rooting for you. I know Eric's rooting for you. I'm pretty sure the entire NFL fan base is rooting for the Cincinnati Bengals to win a title here. We would love to see you guys get a title. Mo, before you go, why don't you plug in anything you want the listeners to take a look at?
You could follow me on Twitter at Mo Egger, and you could listen to our radio show at ESPN1530.com weekday afternoons, 3 to 6 Eastern time.
Mo, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. Not everyone is someone they can lean on and talk to. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With BetterHelp, you have access to over 20,000 licensed therapists. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional therapy done securely online. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own professional licensed therapist. If you've ever searched for a counselor in your area, you know it can take weeks or even months just to get a phone call back. With BetterHelp, you can start communicating as little as 48 hours. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change therapists if needed. You deserve to prioritize your mental health this year, so get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/doubledoingpodcast. And thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode.
This episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. Roses are red, violets are blue. Don't let a wild pube wreck you. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and our sponsors at Manscaped are here for you with the best tools to get your balls ready for the special occasion. This V-Day, it's time to join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. With our exclusive offer, go to manscaped.com and use code DOINK for 20% off plus free shipping. Holidays went by so quick. Did you remember to take care of your package with the best tools for the job? Their Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is just the thing every guy needs in their life to make each and every day a little more special. I'd like to propose making February 13th a national holiday as National Shave Your Balls Day.
I will be shaving my balls that day.
Who's with me? That's right. You got a Valentine's Day date this year, D?
I actually do.
Hey!
I actually do.
Get 20% off and free shipping with code DOINK at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code DOINK.
Today's episode is also sponsored by CoolBet. CoolBet is the most transparent gaming company in the world. CoolBet also provides the best odds in Canada with world-class customer service. For first-time users, use deposit code DOINK, D-O-I-N-K, DOINK, for a 100% welcome bonus up to $200 when signing up with CoolBet. That's code DOINK, and CoolBet will match your first deposit up to $200. Give our friends at CoolBet Canada a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CoolBet Canada. CoolBet. Stay cool and bet responsibly. Mr. Warrensy, what do you think of a Winter Olympics? Are you liking a Winter Olympics so far?
Usually I love it, but it's hard to get into it with the time zones,
Your chair is so small compared to normal?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm real
it's
low.
caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
But no, I'm kind of over just the Olympics doing it all in one location. Like, it's just a huge hassle. Like,
Okay, so can you had this take in the group, but I'm curious, how would you go about it? Because don't you have to put them all in one place? Like, isn't that the point of the Olympics? You get like the Olympic Village, you get like the
Right.
ceremonies and stuff there. Like, I don't.
well, that's all not happening because of COVID anyways this year. But I just mean, like, so China is being forced to make all of the snow for the Winter Olympics. They don't have any areas where they naturally can do these downhill skiing and snowboarding events. So they're forced to make a massive amount of snow. They are currently amid a water crisis.
Yeah.
Why can't the skiing go to Switzerland? Why can't it go to Vancouver? And then you can do the hockey in China if you want. You can do the
Hockey in China.
Yeah, you can do the figure skating in China if you want. Do some skiing in where there's natural snow, and it just also would create such an economic relief for these host countries. Like, every single Olympics is a huge deficit financially. And then these places never get used again. Like, for example, Edmonton has one of the best luge and skeleton tracks in the world. We use it consistently for training. We're like, why can't that just be where the every 4 years the world comes for the luge.
Yeah. So you're saying like every event should have a country that they go to. Like you said, like luge. I remember when the Vancouver built it in 2010. I remember they did a ton of construction on it. I still remember that Olympics. Doesn't that kind of like take away from the Olympic aura? Like I know with the COVID,
sure.
like I know that with COVID, like they're not doing much, but like I feel like I still remember 2010 is the Olympics I remember the most, or the Winter Olympics I remember the most. Like I remember the village, just like it was constant like footage of the village being bumping, and you had people walking around drinking beers. Who was the guy? Who was that one guy that was walking around drinking a beer, chugging a beer in the middle of the village? I can't remember.
And then this is gonna bother me because he went on to host the Amazing Race.
Yes.
John something, I think.
We'll have to double check that one.
Yeah, but no, I like the Olympic Village and stuff is a great atmosphere and stuff, but the cost for running the games is just skyrocketing, and I don't think there is as much of the old like, oh, this will be great for tourism. I don't know if that is the same as it was in like 2000.
No one's going to China anyways.
That's what I mean. Like, you know, yeah.
I agree. I also I just think it's ridiculous that they were hosting the Olympics in China this year anyways.
Yeah.
Like that was, I just think, wrong. And they can't, they already pushed back the Summer Olympics. You couldn't push back this one. Did you see the picture? I guess you did. We're in the same group of where they put the slope.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that? I guess that was the big jump.
Ski.
That was what I watched. That was what I watched last night, which was awesome. Like the past couple of nights, the big jump. Those events are crazy. These women, like last night was the women's big air. Me and my mom were watching it. This woman's flying, spinning through the air. I couldn't even imagine like why you would want to do that with your life. Like why? How did they decide? You know what? I'm gonna be a big air ski jumper.
I know. That's what it blows my mind. I can't like. We would break every bone in our body.
I'd be dead. I would be dead before we got to the top of the hill.
I have a take though. Like figure skating is the worst watch I've ever seen.
See, my mom disagreed with this. I tried to bring this take. I'm 100% on your side. I think it's boring. Like no offense. Like if you go figure skate, no offense to that, but it's just not my cup of tea. I agree with you. My mom got mad at me. Was like, "What are you talking about? It's exciting," but I'm with you on this take.
Like they just dance around on ice, and then it's like. They judge you on it, and it's like, what? How can you tell me that was better than what the other guy did? Because as long as they don't fall, they do the exact same thing. Like,
yeah, no, agreed.
And it's what, like, is this guy wearing a better outfit? Like, what is this, a sport? Why are we judging a guy's outfit for figure skating? I don't know. It's just a hard watch for me.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest figure skating guy either, so I completely get your take there. Okay, what else we got before we jump into some football? The six is buzzing.
Six in a row for the six.
Six in the six. Raptors and Leafs are buzzing. JD Bunkus' parlay hit for me last night. Woke up to a nice little catch. My cool bet account. So shout out to JD Bunkus for that parlay. Last take I got for you here, I've written down. I went and watched my neighbor's hockey game at the ACC, so the Ajax Community Center. I haven't been there in a while. Nothing's changed. Have you been there recently? I guess, have you coached in Ajax?
Yeah, recently? Pad 4, we had a game.
It all looks the same. It was weird walking back in there. Mm-hmm. Kids are smaller nowadays.
I don't know.
Kids are a lot. What we were when we were kids, I feel like kids are just, as the years go by, kids are getting smaller.
Maybe. I guess I coach 16-year-olds, and some of them are as big as me.
Yeah.
But maybe like you're saying the younger ages.
Yeah, like so
smaller?
these kids were 12 or 13. They look tiny to me. Like when I was 12, I was a big boy, and like I guess it's different for me. I was bigger than a lot of kids, but like I still remember our minor hockey days. We looked a lot bigger than these kids did. I don't know.
Maybe.
Something.
Also, just there's no hitting anymore at the age group. Maybe. I don't know if that has any factor.
Could be something to do with that. But like there was just like some tiny kids out there, like some tiny looking defensemen. Like it was just, I don't know. I feel like I just is it that like even in like movies, TV shows, I feel like kids are looking younger and getting smaller. I don't know. Maybe I'm just 24/7 drunk, you know? I can't tell the difference. But anyways, all right. Why don't we talk about some football here? So we're going to do a whole Super Bowl preview tomorrow. So we're going to be breaking down the matchup, offense, defense on both sides, what we like, what we don't like. Analytic dives in. So we got plenty of Super Bowl content coming for you in the next couple of days. Joe Gallant of Oddshark as well tomorrow come on and talk about some betting. And then Friday morning, we will be having our gambling preview. So plenty of Super Bowl content. Don't worry about that. There's some just, I guess, other football news, and the coaching carousel is officially over, which I want to talk about. It's like, is this not a weird group of coaches hired? Did you think it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. Just odd, an odd group.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
Like just the difference between a guy like Mike McDaniel and a Lovie Smith. Like I couldn't picture.
You couldn't, yeah, that's a great point. Couldn't get more opposite spectrum.
Yeah, like one's completely new school and pretty young, and one's as old school as you can get. Like complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a wide range of guys that were hired. We're going to run through them quickly right now. So Denver Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett. What do you think of a Nathaniel Hackett?
I think this one's pretty simple. If he gets Aaron Rodgers to Denver, this is a home run hiring. If he doesn't, let's see.
Yeah, he needs a quarterback. A quarterback is basically the elephant in the room here. He's got to get one. Aaron Rodgers. If I'm him, we have got all offseason to talk about this. I don't think he wants to go to Denver. I don't think he goes to Denver in the end. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you go be in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert? Like, why would you do that to yourself? You know, like that's just, again, we've got all offseason to talk about that. I think they'll go another route to get the quarterback. A couple of just nuggets on Hackett. I actually like him. I do think he's a good guy. He seems energetic, very likable. Go watch one of his press conferences if you want to see how energetic the guy is. Holy crap. The guy can talk. He seems very happy. I watched a couple clips of him on the field. He seems like a guy that players will rally around, very energetic. Also a neurobiologist, graduated with a neurobiologist degree. So he's got some brains up in there.
That's never a bad thing.
Yeah, neurobiology and football are not very alike, but you know what? He did the whole school shebang. And he called plays in Jacksonville for Blake Bortles in 2017. That offense was actually okay. I think he kind of maximized the talent there. That's all I got on Hackett. Anything else on our boy Hackett?
No, still to be determined.
Yeah, all these are going to TBD, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't take what we're saying here for gospel. I saw takes, people grading, giving hires like Fs today on Twitter. It's like, can we fucking wait, let them coach a game first? Jesus. Anyways, Matt Eberflus, we already talked about. That's the one guy we actually already did talk about. So, yeah, it is what it is. We'll skip him. Unless you have anything you want to add.
Nah, mediocre hiring, not
wait and see.
Not overly excited, but not gonna bash the guy.
Giants Brian Daboll. I think he deserved a shot. Like I think it was his time to get a coaching job. He landed with the New York Giants. One thing I will say, I'm getting a little worried that the Giants are building a good staff here. They hired Wink Martindale as a defensive coordinator, who I love and respect a lot. He's a great DC, a lot of success in Baltimore. They blitz a lot. They play the defense style that I like to watch. So I think a Wink and a Brian Daboll is a scary duo, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Daboll, how much was he responsible for Josh Allen's massive step? Mm-hmm. That was year 3 of Josh Allen?
That was 4.
Year 4.
That was
so
year.
This is Daniel Jones going into year 4?
Yeah, this is Daniel Jones going into year 4.
Looking to do the same thing?
Is Daniel Jones going to be better than Josh Allen? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying.
I'm joking.
There were a lot of people that were writing Josh Allen off after 2 years.
True.
So Josh Allen took one of the biggest steps any quarterback's ever taken. So we're not going to expect that. But having Brian Daboll around Daniel Jones cannot be a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think Giants fans would be naive to think that Jones is going to turn into a Josh Allen. But I think there is you can be positive and have a positive outlook that maybe he does turn into somewhat of a good quarterback. He has the intangibles. Like, he can run. He's got an arm. I don't know if he can kind of put it all together. But yeah, I think the Giants are going in the right direction. I really like the kind of the crew that Daboll has brought with him. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Josh McDaniels. Now, this one I do have some takes on. I think this is a really risky hire. I think this could go really good or really bad. If you dig up some of the stuff that came out back in 2000, how long ago was that? 2012?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, like he's been, I think it actually might even be longer ago than that. Like
because Cutler was a Bear.
Yeah,
by then.
that's who, the first thing he did when he got in the building was trade Jay Cutler to the Bears.
Yeah. So maybe it was then.
It was 2009 was when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. So yeah, so it's been like it's been 12, 13 years since he's been a head coach. And if you kind of you can just do a couple Google searches to figure out that it was a disaster that year in Denver. Like, it was awful. He did not do a good job. Coaches hated him. The players hated him. I know there was a story, like Joe Flacco had this quote where like he couldn't stand being there. I don't know if it was if it was that year. He tied this quote about like talking to Josh McDaniels, how he didn't like him, the way he treated him. There was the long snapper story I heard where Denver had this long snapper for like 13 years. He was good. And like one of the first things McDaniels did was get in there and cut like the longtime Denver long snapper, like just things to piss off your team, like just stupid little things like that. He was mean to people. He didn't get along with coaches, didn't get along with players. And he has said that he knows what he was wrong and that he's learned from his mistakes. So we'll see.
He acted like Belichick. He's not Bill Belichick. Yep. So maybe he did have to take that medicine and he learned from that. And I just don't like the direction that this Raiders team is going as a whole. Like, their roster just nothing really jumps out at me in terms of exciting pieces.
Derek Carr's their most exciting piece. And like, what's the ceiling on that?
Can you get more out of Derek Carr than what he gave you this year?
I think if you put better players around him potentially, but like he's not playing physically better. Like he looked as good as he will probably look.
Yeah, so I guess I haven't heard good things about Josh McDaniels, like you said, from players around the league. So we'll see how this one goes. I agree with you. This is incredibly risky. I probably think it has a higher chance of blowing up than succeeding. So
they did bring in Patrick Graham as defensive coordinator, who I like a lot. He was a finalist for the Minnesota Vikings head coaching job just last week. He was the defensive coordinator of the Giants defense for the last 2 years, where I thought they overachieved. He did some cool things there. So I do kind of like that hire. So again, wait and see. Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell. Now, this one I am not crazy about. I just from like the outside, taking a look at his resume is very blank. He was a draft. He actually played quarterback in the league, so he was drafted by the New England Patriots in 2008. He bounced around. He only ended up throwing a total of 4 or 6 passes in the NFL. He was a third-round pick as a quarterback, so nothing really there as a player. And his coaching career is just kind of like he was a quarterbacks coach in Cleveland in 2015, special projects coordinator in 2016. Then he had this stint in Washington. This is where I really dive into this. He was a quarterback coach in 2017, quarterbacks coach and passing coordinator in 2018. Then he was the OC in 2019. The year he was the offensive coordinator in Washington in 2019, they finished dead last in DVOA.
What?
Yeah, so then he jumped to the Rams offensive coordinator in 2020. He's been there for the last 2 years.
But he hasn't called plays in
No, he
LA.
did not. Sean McVay did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like, again, like this screams to me you're screaming for another Sean McVay. You're looking for the next McVay hire, which teams have been doing. Like, McVay's coaching tree and Shanahan's coaching tree is insane right now. Like, they've got like 20% of the league has coached under them at some point. Like, this just seems like a reach.
And
again,
it might feel like the overcorrection from the Zimmer.
Yep, great point.
We had old defensive guy. Let's get the young offensive guy. I am so worried about this Vikings defense. I think it's barely hanging on by a thread. I think that this unit has a chance to fall off a cliff if they don't fix it next year.
Yeah, like this team has got a lot of work to do. The quarterback situation is weird. So yeah, this team in general, I don't know. I'm not crazy about this one. He could prove me wrong again. Again, could prove me wrong. This one it had a little weird stink to me. Sean Desai interviewed there today.
Really?
Yeah. So he had I don't know if he's going to be hired, but he interviewed there for the defensive coordinator job. What did you make of him this year?
He was all right. He's
defensive coordinator of the Bears from last year, and he's interviewing in Minnesota this year. Just FYI.
Yeah, 1 year sample size. It's kind of hard for me to have a great idea of him. When the players were healthy, his defense was great. When his players were injured, defense stunk. Like, it's kind of
that's football, baby.
Yeah, so I don't have like a strong opinion of Desai either way. It's 1 year. I'd like to see him get another chance somewhere else.
Yep. So he's a young guy. So we'll see if he ends up in Minnesota. We got how many more? 3 more or 4 more. Sorry. Doug Peterson. How could I forget Dougie P? My boy going to Jacksonville. Warns you already know I love me some Dougie P. I think he's got a tough road ahead of him. I do think that this is an uphill battle in Jacksonville. You saw kind of what happened in Philly, right? He fell apart when organizational dysfunction hit. Like the Eagles were, Howie Rosen was meddling, the owner was meddling, and Doug kind of fell apart a little bit in that last season. So I do think he needs some stability as an organization, but I do think this can work. Like I do think this is a good hire. Doug Peterson knows quarterbacks. He called a good offense in Philly. Like 2017, like that was an insane offense he called, kind of going to Nick Foles' strengths. I think an under talked about part of Doug Peterson's offensive mind is the last 4 games with Jalen Hurts, he changed that entire offense to fit Hurts' strengths. Like that offense was different with Hurts than it was with Wentz. Like I do think that's something. I think it's an adaptable. It proves that he can adapt to the quarterback. I also do think that Carson Wentz was a bigger problem than Doug Peterson was in Philly in 2020, and I think people don't really realize that. So I think that he's a smart offensive mind. He's aggressive on 4th down. The most aggressive 4th down coach over that stretch. So I also like that. I think his staff's going to be important. He hired Mike McCoy as a quarterback coach. Not huge on a Mike McCoy, but yeah, not a big Mike McCoy guy. But we'll see you guys as offensive coordinator. He just hired a defensive coordinator. I don't have that with me. He was a linebackers coach in Tampa Bay who actually played with Doug Peterson in Green Bay, I believe, when he was a quarterback there. Can you look that up for me quickly here? So they did hire a defensive coordinator. So if he was in Tampa Bay, that means he would coach under Todd Bowles, and we like some Todd Bowles here.
Yeah, I kind of was hoping that the Jaguar, I don't have a specific name in mind, but I was hoping that the Jaguars brought in like a drill sergeant, like an army nonsense type
like an
coach.
Urban Meyer, baby.
Just someone who's not going to take nonsense. You know what I mean? I don't know enough about Doug Peterson to know. I guess he's more of a player's coach than a no nonsense type coach, but still okay with this hiring.
I know you're not as big a Doug P guy as I am. I know it.
I think that so much of that Super Bowl was because of Frank Reich.
You're right.
But Doug does deserve credit.
They were never the same when Frank Reich left, and that's what I'm saying. The staff is going to be important. So his name is Mike Caldwell, by the way, defensive coordinator now of the Jaguars. He was the linebackers coach in Tampa Bay over the last 3 years, so he got to coach under Todd Bowles, who we like. So that could translate. But yeah, love me some Dougie P. I think this, he's very into quarterbacks. He knows his quarterbacks. And we've always been kind of just pushing and stressing. Trevor Lawrence is the number one priority, so you have to focus on him. That's the way Jacksonville should be going. Mike McDaniel, hired by the Miami Dolphins. I'll get your take on this one first.
I didn't realize he was 38.
He's a kid. You thought he was younger than that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He looked I don't know, this is completely stereotyping, right? When you just look at him and his physique. Say the Dolphins are down 21-0 at halftime. He walks into the locker room, kicks over a garbage can, yells, "Come on, guys, we got to pick it up."
I didn't think about it that way.
So you think about it that way and it's this can't work. But then you think of it, this guy's an offensive genius and guys might buy into that. The Dolphins' run game for the last 2 to 3 years has been the worst in the NFL.
And it's actually the last 2 years combined. They've been the worst running team in the NFL, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I thought it was 3 years.
Yeah, it could be 3. I only looked up 2.
So, he is coming in at the absolute bottom of the league in terms of what he specializes in, which is the zone run game.
Yep.
So, if I don't know how he can fix that, though. You know what I mean? You can't just give a guy
scheme's not going to fix it all. You need players.
Yeah, you can't give a guy the engine to a Toyota and a couple other car parts for a Honda and say make me a Beamer. It doesn't work like that. So he's starting from the bottom. We'll see. I am assuming that he's on board with Tua and that's why he got the job. I think that during the hiring process for the Dolphins, it was you're taking Tua, you better be on board with Tua. So we'll see what he does with Tua, but he's going to be a very polarizing guy to follow this year, just from his looks, which isn't right, but it's just the way it is.
His personality, dude. You didn't get that joke I put in the Mike Jones Who joke at all, eh?
No.
So it's a song, Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. You never heard that song? No, of course you haven't. You don't listen to rap at all. But it's an old song. That's what the joke was for. I thought that was very funny. Once I saw it, I'm like, someone's got to hire this guy. I did some background on him. There's actually a great article Tom Pelissero wrote on him back in 2017. He's had a wild upbringing. Did you know that he was an alcoholic?
No.
And he was fired a couple of times because he had a severe alcohol problem. He coached in Cleveland back in 2014. Mike Pettin found a bunch of vodka bottles under his desk. He overslept in Houston and was fired there. He's been in and out of rehab a couple of times. He's now sober since 2016. So gotta love a story like that. He's bounced back. And the reason why he's still been in the NFL is because players and coaches think he was the smartest guy they've ever talked to. Like they would just completely vouch for him. He was very intelligent. He has a degree from Yale. Like he was a Yale graduate, Ivy League graduate. So he's definitely doing something right there. But I love that kind of storyline, like bouncing back from addiction and coming back and being an NFL coach now. Like he was an intern in Denver when he was 21 years old. Like he's been doing the ringer here. Like he's been going through NFL's assistants, interns. He's basically kind of followed wherever Kyle Shanahan's been. Like he's been Kyle Shanahan's basically boy for the last 16, 17 years. So I think this is a cool hire. Again, will it work? We don't know. The Dolphins, like you said, the run game has been dead last the last 2 years. And I think they've realized that, and that's why they probably hired him. Like they realize they need to get better in the run game. And we'll see. He's got an uphill battle. Let's get rid of these last two quick. Lovie Smith to the Texans. Absolutely, this one is weird. I'm not a fan of this hire. Again, who knows? We'll see. But this one screams odd and bad process. He was fired in Illinois 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now he's the head coach of an NFL team.
He was fired from the Bears after a 10-6 season, and nobody hired him.
Yeah, he did not. He was not hired after that. He ended up going to college, right? Like he took a couple years off, I believe. He ended up.
I don't have a single bad thing to say about Lovie Smith. He was
your childhood.
Yeah, he was my favorite coach ever growing up. By all accounts, his players absolutely loved him. He was a player's first coach. I just don't understand the Texans' process here. Like, you fired David Culley to hire Lovie Smith? I don't know what David Culley did last year for you to determine we need an upgrade here. And then you upgrade him from within?
Yeah.
Like,
it's odd. It screams bad process.
It screams 1 year filler gap for Josh McCown to do what? I don't know. Like, why didn't they just hire Josh McCown now?
Yeah, I know. They clearly like him of some sort.
Yeah.
This is now back-to-back years. They've interviewed him like twice a time.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're doing with McCown. I don't know why they're talking to him so much. Like, if you don't like him, stop interviewing him. If you want to hire him, just freaking hire. Like, yeah. I don't get it. This one is a weird hire. Not a big fan of it. Again, we'll see. But I don't know. This one's weird. He's 63 years old. Like, he's getting up there in age. Like,
he did well as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he was okay.
Leave him there.
Yeah,
like,
there was no need. There was no rush to hire him. No one else is going to go take him from you.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go hire an offensive mind and just have Lovie Smith still in the building? I don't really get it. Like Pep Hamilton is he's going to be the offensive coordinator. That's the young star in Houston. Like he's the guy that coached Justin Herbert in LA his rookie year. Now he's the offensive coordinator in Houston. I like the offense that he runs. Like I think it's intriguing. He's the star. He's going to get picked off. He's going to be a head coach probably next year. Like, why wouldn't you just bring him as the OC or maybe as the head coach? I don't know. This is an odd one. Texans still doing dumb things.
Dumb teams do dumb things.
Dennis Allen, the kick to cap it off. I think this is a fine hire. He's been there since 2015. He's been kind of groomed to take over Sean Payton's job, basically. His defenses have been really interesting. So in 2015, they were 31st in DVOA, 2016, 28th. Then check out this run that he had. From 2017, he was 6th in defensive DVOA, 2018, 8th, 2019, 8th, 2020, 2nd, 2021, 3rd. They've had a top 10 defense the last 5 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you need to say to know that he deserves this opportunity. He's been groomed by Sean Payton, and he should be comfortable there. Yeah. I mean, he knows everybody, so I don't expect too much to change down in NOLA.
Okay, let's finish off this last segment quickly here, Warrensy, before we go. So we have a couple superlatives that we have here. We're just gonna put a cap on the season. You know, we just want to finish off what we just watched in 2021. So like a couple examples: most surprising team, most disappointing team, favorite player to watch, etc. So I'm gonna kick it off here. My favorite play of the season, mine was Justin Herbert's 65-yard bomb to Jalen Guyton. Remember that play?
Yeah, that was a hell of a throw.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I watched that play so many times since I still can't wrap my head around it.
My favorite play of the year was Carson Wentz's interception in his own end zone.
Yes.
Nothing gets better than watching Carson Wentz.
Didn't you have money on him in that game, though?
Yeah, he completely choked my ticket. And basically, looking back on it, that cost him a playoff spot.
That's true. That was a big loss for them. Favorite overall storyline of the season? Mine's Urban Meyer. The week 4 chaos when he didn't go home on the plane. I thought that whole thing was funny. It was juicy. It was great content. That was my favorite story.
Nice. He's not gonna win it, but I just liked the storyline this year of Tom Brady at 44 chasing an MVP.
Okay.
He still led the league in passing yards and touchdowns. He's probably gonna come second in the MVP voting, but just for I just turned 27 and I feel like I'm 50. This guy's 44 and he's in the NFL leading the league in touchdowns. Thought that was just incredible.
Most surprising team in a good way. I put Arizona Cardinals here. I could have put Cincinnati Bengals. I didn't want to use that one because they surprised everybody. I thought the Cardinals were going to be really bad this year, and they turned out to be pretty good. So I couldn't really think of another good one, but I'm going with the Cardinals here.
I still don't know how the Titans won 12 games.
Yeah, okay.
How many injuries they had too on top of it, and Mike Vrabel just got extended today as a head coach in Tennessee. He absolutely deserves it because he had the number 1 seed with the most injuries in the NFL.
Most disappointing team. I put the LA Chargers. I was disappointed in them. I had them winning the AFC West this year. I thought they were going to be a better, more contention. I think mixing the playoffs with Justin Herbert was disappointing. I don't think they should be looking at this as a success. This was a down year. They should have made the playoffs.
Yeah, I put the Cleveland Browns. I was disappointed by them.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I had them as a playoff team. They fell short, and basically it was because of Baker. So
yeah, it's true. All right, a star in the making. Whose stock rose the most this season? Justin Herbert. We could not choose because that would have been both of ours. So I made sure to put that there. So anyone else besides Justin Herbert a star in the ranking? I have Deebo Samuel. He was my second favorite player in the league to watch this season. He was awesome. 77 catches, 1,400 yards, and then you add on 59 carries for 365 yards. He was a absolute weapon this year. He was the most electric player in the league. I thought he was the most exciting player in the league to watch. And he's a kid. Yeah. This is just the beginning. I think he's there's another step he can take.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I guess I didn't look at this one as whose stock rose the most because I put Josh Allen and maybe if you're looking at a Madden rating, maybe he didn't go from an 85 to a 95, but I think he went from a 95 to a 99.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it is time we start having the conversation of Josh Allen being on par with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
I think he is that.
He is there. He's right there. I would believe that. I think you can put him in Mahomes in the same bucket.
Yeah, I think that it's 1A, 1B right now.
Favorite player to watch for me was Justin Herbert.
I put Deebo Samuel for that one.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. I loved watching Justin Herbert this year. LA Chargers were must-watch TV for me this year. Again, they will be next year. I just love watching that guy play. He's the way he throws the ball. He's mobile. He's my dream quarterback. I would kill him to be in an Eagles jersey. He's awesome.
Cheese.
Yeah. Early 2022 hot seat coach. So I have 2 here. I have Cliff Kingsbury and Pete Carroll. I think those are 2 guys that need winning seasons next year.
How about this one? Even though they just won 12 games, Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that it's just a matter of time until Sean Payton's coaching the Cowboys, and that seat's going to be red
I
hot.
think the odds are about, I'd go maybe a 40 to 50% chance that he's a coach, Sean Payton's a coach in Dallas in 2023.
Yeah. I think the writing's on the wall.
Team you're worried about the most? I'm going to go with my Pops' team, Washington Football Team, Washington Commanders. I'm not going to be able to get used to that. Washington Commanders. This team fell back big time on defense last year. They were bad. If they can't get a quarterback, if you're running out with Taylor Heineke or something like that next year, this is just a revolving bad door of bad quarterback play. They need to get a quarterback. I think Ron Rivera is even a guy you could put in the hot seat. If they don't figure this out, I don't know when they can because they have young guys that they should be able to win with right now.
Yeah. Okay. Call me crazy. I put the Bengals. I just think.
You're worried about the most?
Yeah, I just think the media is acting like the Bengals are this rock star team, and it's they have holes. And Joe Burrow, in his first season, suffered a massive knee injury. His second season, he was the most hit quarterback in the NFL. If they don't fix that, they're going to ruin this guy, and I'm worried about that.
No, that's true. Like they're this is like their hoorah moment. Like who knows if they can kind of have this magic again. I just think if you have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow, you have those 3 guys, you should be able to win football games. Like 2 really good receivers and a quarterback. It's kind of the success in the NFL. Last one. Team we are excited the most about this offseason. I'm going to be weird here. I'm going Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm really excited to see what they do with Trevor Lawrence. Really excited to see what Doug Peterson does around him, which players they bring in. They've got the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. They've got the 1st overall pick. They can be as open, and it's time. They have to go build a team now. Trevor Lawrence is going to 2nd year. This is the time to just go spend quite crazy and go get a winner built. Like this is like a Madden team. It's like a Madden's dream right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, in my opinion.
Yeah. I put the Bears.
Okay.
I looked at like this whole season. I accepted the fact that this was a punt year. Like Matt Nagy, his time was up. Developed a little development for Justin Fields, but now we have some cap space. Let's go get some offensive line help and really see what Justin Fields can become.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Me and Warner will be back with Gilles Gallant of FTN Network. Looking forward to be talking to him tomorrow. And then Eric and I will have a full preview of the Super Bowl coming up. What matchups we don't like, what matchups we do like. That'll be coming to you tomorrow. And then we will be having our gambling episode, which bets we are making with our boy Ziad, who was on Weekend Wagers all year. So can't wait to do that. And thanks again for listening. And we will talk to you later.